Welcome everybody to our Project Learning Tree Canada webinar, Charting Your Career Path in Urban Forestry. I'm going to hand it on over to my co-host to welcome us all to the session and get into our first details. James Thorderson from PLT Canada, take it away.
Thank you very much, Meg. Yeah, hi everyone. My name is James Thorderson and I'm the Senior Coordinator of Forest Education with Project Learning Tree Canada. Before we dive into all of our wonderful content today, I would like to take this time to provide a territorial acknowledgement. The Sustainable Forestry Initiative's diverse team of staff and consultants live and work on the ancestral territories of many Indigenous nations, including from our offices on the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin people in what is now Ottawa, Ontario, as well as of the Nacotchtank and Piscataway peoples in present-day Washington, D.C. I personally am joining from the traditional territory of those in the Robinson Superior Treaty, specifically those of Fort William First Nation. Here at SFI and Project Learning Tree Canada, we are committed to building forest-focused collaborations that recognize and respect Indigenous peoples' rights, their enduring leadership in forest stewardship, as well as all of our responsibilities to future generations. Before we get started, there are a few housekeeping items that we need to go through. You're welcome to have your camera on or off, but we ask that you always have the mute function on when others are talking. If you would like to, you can right-click on your name and add your preferred language or pronouns if you so choose. And please feel free to submit questions in the chat at any time for us to answer at the end of this session. If you would like to have this directly translated into French, we are going to have those instructions for you right now.
Thank you.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Mira et je vais expliquer comment accéder à l'interprétation pour le webinaire. Premièrement, cliquez sur le lien dans le clavardage pour ouvrir le navigateur Wordly. Puis, sélectionnez la langue de votre choix dans le coin supérieur droite. Et cliquez sur le bouton audio pour entendre l'interprétation en direct. Finalement, vous devez rendre le son de Zoom web. Alors, sélectionnez la flèche à côté de Mute dans le coin inférieur gauche et cliquez sur Leave Computer Audio. Et je veux aussi signaler que si vous voulez poser une question, vous devrez l'écrire dans le clavardage ou rejoindre l'audio de l'ordinateur sur Zoom. Merci.
As I said, I am James Thorderson, and today we're going to be talking about the intersection between professional forestry and ISA certification, and I'm going to turn it over to our wonderful Megan Hanna to tell you the rest of this. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, James, our fabulous co-host. Yes, my name is Megan Hanna. You can call me Meg. I'm Director of Urban and Community Forestry here at SFI and collaborate with Project Learning Tree Canada. While we won't get into my personal background in history today, I am coming from somebody with SOL designations and ISA credentials, whereas James Thorderson is a registered professional forester and ISA certified arborist. And we actually have the treat of being joined by folks representing the Ontario Professional Foresters Association and ISA Ontario to talk about the difference of those credentials and orient people who are looking to branch out and find their path in urban forestry. So our session will focus on introducing our panelists. They will share their stories, their organizations, their career paths. At the end of the session, we will be taking an interactive question and answer period. So we do ask that you hold your questions to the end or feel free to integrate them into the chat, and we will get to them at the end of the presentation. We will finish with some final reflections and upcoming activities from PLT Canada. And just so you have a sense of who we are, Project Learning Tree Canada is an initiative of SFI. SFI, the Sustainable Forestry Initiative's mission is to advance sustainability through forest-focused collaboration. And this mission comes to life through a vision that envisions a world that values and benefits from sustainably managed forests. Project Learning Tree Canada's goal is to advance environmental education, forest literacy, and career pathways using trees as windows on the world. Our panelists today, we will give them ample time to introduce themselves, their career pathways, and their professional designations, but we are grateful to be joined by Alexander McLeod, Louise Simpson, Julie Tucker, and Alex Vagan, all folks contributing to the urban forest ecosystem here in Ontario. So we will kick off the presentation by introducing and welcoming Louise Simpson, who is Executive Director and Registrar for the Ontario Professional Foresters Association, or OPFA. Welcome, Louise.
Thanks, Meg. Thank you for having us. I'm not going to spend too much time introducing myself because honestly, I think the other panelists will be much more useful to you in that regard. But I'm the Executive Director and Registrar of the OPFA, as Meg mentioned. Prior to that, I was the Registration Manager for 8 years. So I spent a lot of time guiding people through the process to becoming licensed as a Registered Professional Forester or an Associate Registered Professional Forester. So I can bring some of that insight to the panel today. I'm also a certified association executive, which I'm throwing out there, but I'm not going to go into detail because it's not urban forestry related. I do have a Master's of Science in Forestry, which enables me to kind of blend those two things together, which has been great. You go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So a little bit about the OPFA. When people think about regulated professions, usually they're thinking about teachers, engineers, doctors, nurses, lawyers, and things like that. A lot of people don't realize that professional forestry is also a regulated profession across most of Canada, and that you actually need to be licensed to do that work. So in Ontario, the regulator of professional foresters is the OPFA. We are mandated to serve the public interest by regulating Ontario professional foresters at the highest standard of ethical conduct and professional forestry practice. And we do this, as it says in the nice orange banner in the middle, by making sure that professional foresters are qualified, competent, and accountable. So that means that we are assessing people's educational qualifications, making sure if they have any areas in which they need additional training, that they get that before they become licensed. Making sure that they're competent, which ties into that piece as well, but can also include looking at their work experience, making sure people have the right amount of kind of guidance and mentored experience under their belt, and also making sure that they maintain their competency. So when we're talking about competency, we're talking about knowledge and skills. And in many areas, particularly science-based areas like professional forestry, this is advancing over time. So professional foresters have continuing educational requirements that they need to meet to make sure that they maintain current in their practices. And finally, one of the biggest pieces is that we hold them accountable. So the OPFA has a code of ethics and acts of misconduct that are actually defined by Ontario legislation in the Professional Foresters Act. So they're not set by us. They're not something that we can change. It's set by the Ontario government in order to protect the public. So that means that we hold professional foresters accountable. Anybody can put in a complaint against a professional forester and we will investigate it and take action if warranted. So that's a little overview of the OPFA. Professional forester and variations of that title are a legally protected title as per the legislation. So that ties into that need to be licensed to do that work. You cannot call yourself a professional forester if you are not registered with the OPFA in Ontario. Professional designations, which I'm sure is what most of you would be interested in for me, is Registered Professional Forester, or we call it RPF, or Associate Registered Professional Forester, which is Associate RPF. Now, the difference between these two are that the RPF is kind of a more general, open type of license. So it's a full license. We call it full membership, even though it's not really membership. Registered professional foresters can provide any professional forestry services in areas in which they are competent. So although they don't have a defined scope of practice, they are still bound by our code of conduct, standards of practice, and the code of ethics, to only provide services in areas in which they are competent. So for example, you might have a person who's been working on Crown land for 50 years and they're very experienced. They cannot go and do urban forestry because they're not qualified to do so. And vice versa. You can have somebody who's been working in urban forestry their whole career. They would not be able to go and write a Crown land forest management plan. So the members themselves are held accountable to only work in those areas. Our other designation, the Associate RPF, is someone who hasn't demonstrated that they have the competencies. So again, that knowledge and skills piece to meet the full set required in the national standards to become an RPF, but they have proven that they are very competent in specific areas of that. So they have a defined scope of practice, which is listed on the website. You can look up any professional forester on our public register. So you can look up somebody's scope of practice and it will tell you the areas in which they are licensed to work. One question that we commonly get is about the title urban forester. So urban forestry is a term that's growing in popularity, and it's being used a lot across educational programs, certification programs. Employers are using it in job titles. And the term urban forester is not actually a protected title. So that means that people use this title, but they're not licensed to provide professional forestry services. So that's just something to be aware of. So going into what is professional forestry, in Ontario, it's defined by the government through the Professional Foresters Act as the provision of services and advice regarding forest operations and the preparation of plans relating to forestry, good forestry practices, and the sustainability of forests. And in Ontario, at least, this actually also includes urban woodlands. So writing, for example, sustainable plans for urban woodlands requires landscape level knowledge of a wide range of areas, including forest ecology, biology, planning, and relevant policy and legislation, and the ability to model current and future forest conditions quite far into the future. So this requires the specialist skills of a professional forester. The Act does define specific services that are included as part of that professional forestry scope. And it also provides some exemptions for some specific situations under which people can conduct tree and forest related work without requiring registration with the OPFA. So for example, these include if you're working under the supervision of a suitably licensed professional forester, or another example is if you're a certified arborist working within the scope of practice of arboriculture, so specializing in individual trees and groups of individual trees rather than that landscape level woodlot planning. Okay, next slide, please. So in terms of how do you become a registered professional forester in Ontario, the simplest route is to complete we call it CFAB, but it's the Canadian Forestry Accreditation Board accredited program. So these are university programs that have had their entire program content thoroughly assessed and have been deemed to meet the national entry-level standards. So when you take that pathway, you do still have to get 18 months of mentored experience. You do still have to take our specialized training in Indigenous peoples' lands and resources. And you need to submit some forms from some sponsors and character witnesses, but it's a fairly streamlined process. But we recognize people are coming from various different times in their life, different educational backgrounds. So we do have alternative pathways available. These just have some additional steps. So you have to go through some academic and the potential for assessments of your experience as well. And there are additional training requirements. So you need to demonstrate that you know about Ontario forest policy and legislation. If during the assessments gaps are identified in your knowledge or skills, which they usually are if it's from an unaccredited pathway, you may be required to take additional training before you could become registered as an RPF, so that full license. But what we usually do is encourage people to apply for associate RPF first so they can get that limited license and work in the areas in which they do already have the knowledge and skills. And then they can work to build on that and work towards that full license if they choose to do so. Another question we get is about the minimal educational requirements. So to become an RPF, that full license, you need to have a 4-year Bachelor's of Science degree or equivalent. To become an associate RPF, the minimum is a relevant diploma, and then there's some of that additional training that we require, as I mentioned. We do often get asked about certificate programs. So unfortunately, certificate programs don't meet the minimum educational requirements for licensure, even if they say forest or urban forestry or something similar. But they are a great way to gain specialized skills and boost your resume. And many RPFs and associate RPFs are also certified arborists, certified tree markers. So there is definitely a benefit, and you can be both of those things, as multiple of our panelists are today, so they'll be able to speak to that better than I can. Next slide, please. So in terms of employment opportunities, there's a lot. It's a growing profession. We currently have the highest number of practicing professional foresters in Ontario in over a decade. there's still plenty of job opportunities out there, especially if you are willing to relocate and go to different areas. In terms of urban forestry employment, we're seeing a lot more municipalities and conservation authorities hiring professional foresters, and also in encouraging their current staff to become licensed. And you also have a lot hired at the government level, consulting firms, nonprofit organizations, and research and educational institutions. So there's a wide range of employers out there. We currently have about 180 provisional members that are in training to become licensed, and about 25 to 30% of them are in the urban forestry realm. And I would like to highlight that it takes a team. So professional foresters are not working on their own most of the time. They're working alongside other regulated professions. So for example, professional engineers and professional planners, and others who provide specialized tree-related services such as certified arborists. So it really does take a team to manage an urban forest. And I'm excited that you're here to explore different opportunities. If anybody has any questions outside of the session and you want to reach out to me and get clarification on anything, you're welcome to do so. I'd be happy to talk with you.
Thank you so much, Louise, for your presentation from OPFA. You're welcome to share in the chat links to your website or how folks can get a hold of you. And thank you for unpacking the professional designation of Registered Professional Forester in Ontario. Let's now move on to Julie Tucker, who is Executive Director of International Society of Arboriculture Ontario, or ISAO. Thank you so much, Julie, for joining us, and welcome.
Hi, Meg. Thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here today to talk about ISAO Ontario, arboriculture, urban forestry, and the professional credentials around them through ISA. So as Meg said, my name is Julie Tucker, and I'm the Executive Director for ISAO Ontario. And I've been in the arboriculture and urban forestry industry for a very long time, and I can honestly say it's a rewarding, eventful, and challenging career that has provided many opportunities that have ultimately led me to where I am today. I am a ISA certified arborist since 2008, and I graduated from Fleming College in the arboriculture certificate and forestry diploma. And I've been a tree planter, I've been a climbing arborist, an urban forester, a business owner, a teacher, trainer, consultant, and now I'm serving here at ISA Ontario. So I'm very excited to be here today. And as someone who's been in the arboriculture urban forestry career for over 20 years, I can honestly say it's not just a job, but it's a career that can be extremely rewarding. So who is ISA Ontario? ISA Ontario, we are a membership-based organization driven by staff, volunteers, and individuals dedicated to the arboriculture industry. Today, we're proud to have over 1,150 members who make up our community. And of course, there are lots of benefits to being a member, which might touch on if we have a little bit of slide, but as a nonprofit organization, we are driven by a mission. And our mission is to enhance and promote the care and benefit of trees for present and future generations through education, research, and awareness. And that's our official wording, but what that really means is that everything we do comes back to supporting the people who care for trees and the trees themselves, making sure the benefits of trees will last well beyond our lifetime. And we do that through our strategic plan, which has three main pillars, which is to educate, research, and advocate. And we carry out that work by following our core values, which are leadership, integrity, and service. And while at ISAO, we are a chapter, we are part of something much bigger, which is ISA International. So all of our certifications are recognized worldwide, and there are 64 chapters around the world representing over 20,000 members, and all working with similar missions to promote the industry and profession of arboriculture and urban forestry worldwide. So as I mentioned, there are many opportunities to make a career working out of arboriculture and urban forestry. There's sales, safety can be a focus. You can be a manager or a business owner, plant healthcare, working on the ground. You can do research. So there's many opportunities, and those opportunities can be presented to you through working through municipal or commercial industries, utility focused or research, government or non-government agencies. And right there in the middle, there's the arborist, so the tree climber, which is, I guess, the kind of like the glory role of the industry, the climber. So I wanted to share a video, and each day may not look like this for an arborist, but the skills that are incorporated into the Ontario Tree Climbing Championship are used by arborists day to day. So I'd love to share this video with you to demonstrate what it actually looks like to be an arborist. Yeah, so that might not be what a typical day looks like for an arborist, but that the competition focuses on the skills and the daily activities that arborists are doing in a competition like setting, focused on safety and efficiency. So next up, I want to talk about urban forestry and what does that look like. And I don't have a shiny video, but a few examples. Urban forestry, we're looking at the tree and the way it's interacting with the urban environment around them. So on my left, I don't know if it's your left, but my left, the large tree, we have it interacting with the site, and urban foresters looking at the way that that tree is interacting with the utilities, the home, the targets of people, vehicles, and sidewalks. So we're looking at how to manage risk in that kind of environment, and to manage it from preventative risk and what happens when something does occur. In the middle, we have the more of an overall picture of the urban environment or the urban forest, and an urban forester or an urban forest manager is looking at all the way the urban environment is affected by the trees as a whole through canopy coverage or the benefits that they contribute to the city. So there's tree planting involved, and at the bottom is an example of a street tree inventory that I did at one point for a road reconstruction project, where an urban forester is going in and assessing the trees before a project like this and looking at whether or not they're going to be removed, retained, how the trees will interact with the development that's occurring, and mitigating the risk involved or preserving the trees that are there. So it's a little bit of it's an overall glimpse of what an urban forester does, but we're really looking at the ways that the trees are interacting with the urban environment, and the arborists and urban foresters are working together to assess these trees or mitigate risk, and pruning to prevent or to clean up once risk occurs or storm damage occurs. So we can go to the next slide, and just to point out, like, this is an example of how urban foresters and arborists work together. And so the urban foresters would be looking at ways to prevent this, and the arborists would be coming in looking at ways to efficiently and safely remove a tree after an incident like this. And there's so much overlap in the jobs as well, because an arborist could work on staff at a municipality as well to help with this. But we're looking at preventative maintenance to assess, to ensure this stuff doesn't happen, but nobody can predict severe weather events, and nobody, as much knowledge as we have, trees can be unpredictable. So when this occurs, arborists come in to safely and efficiently remove this as much as possible to get the road, or in this case, the car, to drive away as quickly as possible. And this car did drive away. So what is an ISA certified arborist?
Hey, Julie, sorry to interrupt. Can I give you a 2-minute time check, please, as we advance to the final slides? Thank you.
Sure. So an ISA certified arborist are qualified, competent, and safe tree care professionals who are sought out by the public, government, organizations, and professionals. So I have a slide of some of the eligibility required to apply to be a certified arborist. And then like Louise with the OPFA, there are continuing education units required. But more information can be found on our website or the ISA website. And there are also next level credentials, I call them. So there's next steps you can do as you progress throughout your career to gain more certification to specialize in arboriculture or urban forestry. Again, more information can be found either on our website, isaontario.com, or the ISA-Arbor website that's listed at the bottom there. And there are more options than just ISA to pursue becoming an urban forester or a certified arborist here in Ontario. There's a groundworker training program, Skilled Trades Ontario, through apprenticeship, and Algonquin College. So there's a whole list of options available to you there, and they are available on our website at isaontario.com for further information. And so that's a little bit about that. And so a little bit about our membership. Again, we have over 1,150 members, and it's not just about certification, but it's also about professional development through many other workshops and training activities, including our annual conference and trade show. It's about networking and connection to other industry professionals working in the industry, and it's about fun. And we have interactive events, and here's a few pictures, and I hope to see you in the future at one of the events, and we are always available to answer your questions on certification or working in the arboriculture industry here at ISA Ontario.
Thank you, Julie, for giving us a comprehensive overview of what ISA Ontario achieves as a nonprofit in Ontario, but also the value of voluntary certifications like ISA Certified Arborist and associated credentials, and as well as looking at some of the apprenticeship, diploma, and a degree options available to folks learning about the sector and wanting to bridge into this professional work, which complements what Louise presented earlier extremely well. So thank you for that. Now, as we've explored potential career pathways and professional designations, we want to turn it over to our final two panelists, who will each go through how they have navigated their career, what they've studied, what they've learned along the way. So we're very pleased to welcome the first of our final two panelists, Alexander McLeod, who is a registered professional forester, and his role is senior arborist for GEI Canada. Alex, welcome to the session, and thank you for presenting today. Over on to you.
Thank you so much for having me. So I'm delighted to be here. It's a great honor. I've really enjoyed, like as Julie mentioned there a few minutes ago, moving into the urban forestry sector as a forester. And yeah, I'm delighted to be here. So yeah, as I mentioned, as Meg introduced me there, I'm Alexander McLeod. I'm a senior arborist and registered professional forester with GEI Canada. Next slide, please. So my career path with my two hometowns. I'm kind of torn into both sides of the Atlantic. So I moved here 10 years ago from Scotland, and my hometown here in Guelph. My hometown here in Canada is Guelph, Ontario. And my hometown back home in Scotland is a tiny little village in the Scottish Highlands, right at the very far north of Scotland, called Helmsdale. My educational journey began in forestry in Inverness College at the Scottish School of Forestry. I did a national certificate in forestry, which was a completely practical based program. Absolutely loved it. I didn't know exactly what I was wanting to do, but then I went to forestry, and it was the perfect fit for me. So then I moved on to the higher national diploma program in forestry at the Scottish School of Forestry in Inverness College between 2007 and 2010. And that included a year's work placement in Ireland. all the forestry programs back home in the UK, they require a compulsory year in industry, which is really, really helpful. And then after that, I moved on to Bachelor of Science degree in forestry at the Bangor University in North Wales. Really enjoyed the science and the academic side of things. And then I didn't feel I was quite finished yet. You know, I took a year out, made some money, did some other bits and bobs, and I was going to go traveling. And then I got offered a scholarship to go to Aberdeen to the Masters of Science forestry degree. And then I met my wife, and that's why I'm here in Canada now. So yeah, that's my journey, my educational journey in forestry, from the academic side. Next slide, please. So in terms of work experiences, my first job in the environmental sector was as a water bailiff and biologist with the local river board that I used to fish on as a kid, and then worked on as a water bailiff and a biologist with electrofishing and a bunch of other stuff. And I did that every summer, 2007, 2008, and then after that, 2013 or 2011 through 2013 seasonally. I also worked locally on an estate, Highland Estate, a Borrable Estate, between 2007 and 2015 seasonally as well in the Christmas tree industry. And I was from doing pruning and planting, fertilizing, and a couple of times I did the Christmas tree harvest, which was extremely intense, but my chainsaw skills from my NC Forestry came in handy then. I worked also, as I mentioned there, in Northern Ireland with the Irish Forest Service, doing my compulsory work placement in industry when I was doing my diploma. And then I worked as a forestry surveyor in South Wales with Furlong Forest Surveys in 2013 and 2015 for a few months in between things. And on weekends down there too, I worked as a grounds person. This is how I really kind of started getting into arboriculture. Worked on weekends with Tybee Tree Services, and my friend from my days at Bangor University, David Lewis, he had a small business, so we worked on weekends and I assisted him. Next slide, please. And then I moved to Canada. So in 2015, moved over and I got a job with Davy Tree Expert in Kitchener, which is the local office here to Guelph. And I worked as a plant healthcare technician during the summer. And then I moved into more ground person roles and climbing arborist in the winter time. I was there for a couple of years, and then I moved into consulting arboriculture with Davy Research Group just for a couple of months. And then I moved into ACOM. ACOM, I really grew tremendously. I was there for a total of 8 years, or 7 years. And I did everything from consulting arboriculture, I did ecology, I did a bunch of other stuff that's related to forestry. So that helped me grow in the RPF role that I got to eventually get, and helped me reinforce some of that competency gaps that I needed to get in work experience. So yeah, I continued through there, worked as consulting arborist for 4 years, and I worked as an acting lead arborist while the former lead arborist was on leave. So I grew tremendously in that 2 years, and then I became a senior arborist and registered professional forester at ACOM for about 6-7 months before I moved to GI, where I currently am in the same role. Next slide, please. So challenges for me entering the sector. Obviously, the move to Canada was a big challenge, you know, just leaving everything behind in Scotland. But yeah, great opportunities here in Canada. Being internationally trained, credentials was a challenge. My international work experience, often I wouldn't get any bites at all from applying to jobs until I put permanent residence on my my resume. I started getting a bit more opportunities then, but yeah, lack of or Canadian experience really kind of drew some barriers up. Lack of network, which I eventually built, but networking is such a key thing. And then the RPF, very challenging process, I must admit. So got through it, persevered. Took me 7 years actually, but no, it's a great reward that you get. Next slide, please. So what helped me succeed? ISA certified arborist credential. I got that in 9 years ago now. Once I got that, I got some more opportunities and more demand from when I was working at Davy. I became a crew lead of 2 crews on a ash removal contract in a local municipality here at Cambridge. Mentorship's a big thing, both formally and informally. So formally, I had a really good mentor when I was going through the RPF process, but I also had a bunch of informal mentors to help me with that process too. One of them being from Wales and graduated from the same undergrad I went to. So she was fantastic. OPFA, Louise, who just spoke there a few minutes ago, she mentioned she was registration manager for 8 years. Huge help, like couldn't have done it without her. Thank you, Louise. She knows that, and really, there's helpful people at the OPFA that really guide you through that process. Independent learning, you've got to continue learning. Every day is a school day, so like it's always good to keep learning on the side. Volunteering. I volunteered in some tree community plantings locally and made some good networking opportunities there. And then the last one is just perseverance, just go keep going. So yeah, that's my kind of guidance in a nutshell. Next slide, please. And just there's some stuff missing here. So I've got my slide here. So technical skills that would help. So being practical. If you're practical in the field, that's useful. Tree ID is very useful to help in arboriculture. Forest ecology and Microsoft Office Suite. So all those things in urban forestry are quite important. Soft skills, being in the urban arena, you've got to be personable and courteous and also adaptable, because there's obviously lots of people living in the area, but being in forestry, you've got to be a bit adaptable. It's quite a big environment, big sector. Mentorship wise, RPF mentors are very important, and ISAO BCMAs have got a good mentor as well here locally in Guelph, and just other colleagues in your profession. It's good to get some information from them. And then some resources I'd like to share for getting into the sector. But LinkedIn's really good for networking and sharing stuff with people. Conferences and community tree planting events. I mentioned, like I did some volunteering locally here in Guelph. And finally, on to the closing remarks. So, forestry found me. As I mentioned a short time ago, when I didn't actually know what I wanted to do after when I was in school. So I did this software package called Kudos in the UK. I don't know if Louise did it too, but basically asked you a bunch of questions. Do you like working outdoors, like working in an office, and you rate it 1 to 5, 1 being really good and 5, really dislike. And forestry came up as like a 90%, 97%, I remember. Link. I was like, wow, that's interesting. And then 2 weeks later, there was a careers convention at the high school in the Scottish School of Forestry was there. They had chainsaws and tractors, and like not literally tractors, but like pictures of tractors and that. I was like, this looks really cool. So I ended up going right into forestry, did that course, and I just loved it. And then urban forestry wise, I found urban forestry when I moved over here. There's not really urban forestry in Europe as much, especially in the UK and Germany. I've recently seen it, but in a lot of countries, there's not really much urban forestry. So I moved to Canada here, really opened my eyes, and I found that niche in forestry where I really feel I fit in. And then consulting found me. So I really enjoy consulting that I work in just now. Really love it. Some great colleagues, great opportunities and projects. And ironically, just it was a neighbor of an Airbnb in a driveway that gave me the opportunity to come. We were checking out an Airbnb for some family of mine to stay in when they were coming over from mine and my wife's wedding. So that was my link into consulting. So like, yeah, I just wanted to kind of end on like your career path and journey will find you somehow, and sometimes it's in the least ways you expect it. So that's my journey so far, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Alex, for sharing your career perspectives. At Project Learning Tree Canada, we do get a lot of questions from international folks about how they bridge into the sector in Canada. So I feel that your story is very relatable, but also very relevant and valuable for our audience. So thank you for sharing. And I think I will have to quote you many times. Every day is a school day. I love that mindset and perspective, really just keeping that lifetime of learning going as you approach new challenges and gain new skills. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. So we will now hand it over to our final panelist on this talk relating her personal career path. So I do want to welcome Alex Vagan, who's also a registered professional forester in Ontario. She serves as urban forester and geographic information systems or GIS specialist for the Davie Resource Group. Thank you so much, Alex, for joining us today, and on over to you to tell your story.
Thank you, Meg, for the introduction. First of all, I just wanted to let everybody know that all are welcome in forestry. You do not have to be named Alex. This is just coincidental for this presentation. But I work as an urban forester and GIS specialist for Davie Resource Group. So I'm doing a lot of tree inventory creations and as well as some of the stuff that that Julie mentioned as relation to tree protection plans and stuff like that as well. Next slide, please. It is a great name. Thanks, Alex. So I actually am born and raised in the GTA, so local to Southern Ontario. Currently living in the Tri-Cities. If you don't know where that is, it's Kitchener, Waterloo, and Cambridge. My kind of intro to forestry, so to speak, was through my stepdad. He was very outdoorsy. He made sure that we spent time outside through camping, fishing, and his father actually handmade a cottage up near Wabashine. So we would get to go and spend time there as well throughout the year, which was absolutely fantastic. And those experiences kind of led me down the path of always wanting to do something to help nature. So my career path was a little bit more back and forth than what Alex said. As a young child who loves nature and loves animals, very stereotypically, I wanted to be a veterinarian, specifically a wildlife veterinarian. And then as school progressed, I decided I wanted to do research, wildlife biology, stuff like that. Once I started my Bachelor of Science at the University of Guelph, I discovered ecology and absolutely fell in love. Through my courses there, I then discovered urban ecology and then subsequently urban forestry. And that's what led me kind of down the path to pursuing the Masters of Forest Conservation program. My first actual job working around nature was a camp counselor while I was pursuing my undergrad. And then if anyone knows about the MFC program, you'll know that you have to do a capstone project and an internship. And my internship was with what is now called Forests Canada as a forest education assistant. I absolutely love teaching, and I think education and stewardship are absolute keystones when it comes to forestry and urban forestry. The intersection between people and people and nature is absolutely fascinating to me. So I worked there as a forest education assistant for my internship. And at the time it was called the Ontario Forestry Association, and then Forests Ontario, and now Forest Canada. Once graduating, I also worked at Davie Kitchener before Alex. Unfortunately, we weren't able to meet face to face because I left right before he started working there. And I worked as an arborist and plant healthcare technician as well. Louis Simpson just mentioned in the chat, yes, MFC is currently now accredited. My graduation year, which was 2014, was the last year it was not accredited. So I did have to go through the non-accreditation process for my RPF, which I started in 2016. Yeah, very surprising. I'm very, very glad that it is now accredited, and Louis Simpson and the crew at the OPFA have done an amazing job, in my personal opinion, on working at getting more programs accredited, as well as making the process in becoming an RPF a lot more streamlined. And I think that's really important with getting more people into forestry and urban forestry as well. I started my journey to become a registered professional forester when I worked for Eccles Forestry as a forester. Jim Eccles was my mentor, and working with him day to day, doing tree marking, MIF tips, forest management plans, silviculture prescriptions, really solidified a love for not just urban forestry, but also private forestry in Southern Ontario, because there is still a huge connection between nature and forests when you do that as well. From there, I worked as an education coordinator and director for Oxford Learning Centre in Waterloo. Now, that's not directly related to forestry, but I wanted to include that because I think that non-forestry work is also really beneficial because you can learn a lot of power skills. So my work at Oxford Learning, which my love of education kind of led me to take that position, taught me management and supervisory skills, conflict resolution, and I also learned how to teach and train people. I learned a lot about learning styles, and it really, really helped me with wanting to become a manager and supervisor in urban forestry. Worked at the as a coordinator for conservation leadership, helping get the Masters of Conservation Leadership program going during from the University of Guelph. I'm not sure if it's still around. It got started during COVID, which was very unfortunate for the program itself. Because again, switching to virtual learning and everything like that. From there, I worked at the city of Mississauga for about 3 years, and that was absolutely fantastic. I did the forest policy course from Lakehead University, which was my final hurdle to becoming a registered professional forester. So from there, I got my job as a consulting arborist at Davie Resource Group, and as of this year, was promoted to urban forester and GIS specialist. You'll see the little leaves on my diagram here, and that just kind of shows you where I obtained each of my different credentials. Thank you, James. So you'll see first was ISA, and again, working in urban forestry, that's fairly common. Next slide, please. What helped me succeed? Persistence. And with that comes Louis Simpson from the OPFA. As Alex mentioned, Louis has been an absolute treasure to have through the registration and credentialing process for becoming an RPF. There were times where I wanted to give up, and honestly, talking to Louise helped me through those difficult times. I also wanted to give a shout out to Bridget from the ISAO. She's been a huge help with navigating certifications and giving book recommendations and study resources. And she actually, you can go to the ISAO office in Milton, and she'll let you check out books to see if it's something you're interested in getting, which I've honestly done myself and thought was absolutely fantastic. Networking community, Women in Wood, Women in Arboriculture Ontario are groups that I'm a part of, and I think that they're absolutely fantastic. Also reaching out to people through LinkedIn and jobs to learn from them. As you can see from my varied work experience, I tried a lot of different pathways to kind of decide what I was interested in. So trying new things, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and I think it's actually encouraged. Volunteering helped me stay motivated and provided an outlet for the things I wanted to do that I was unable to do in a job, especially around teaching. So I volunteered with Forestry Canada, the Laura Environmental Centre. I'm currently on the Ontario Urban Forest Council Board, and I participate in 3 different mentorship programs as a mentor, including Project Learning Trees Green Mentor, the Ontario Urban Forest Council's mentorship program, as well as a mentor for registered people pursuing registered professional forestry designation, and independent learning. My current position includes GIS. I do not have a GIS certification. I just really love it and decided to teach myself GIS through YouTube videos, books, and all that stuff so that I could pursue it professionally as well as on my own. Next slide, please. Technical skills, tree and shrub ID, obviously, especially as you're first getting into things, you need to know what you're looking at. For myself, GIS, data analysis, and when you're looking at urban forestry, writing and presentation skills are also very important. Soft skills, my cousin is a job developer, and he told me that as of last year, they were being rebranded as called power skills. And I honestly love that, because soft skills, kind of seems a little, they're soft. Power skills, they're powerful. Active listening, conflict management, emotional intelligence, critical thinking, empathy, problem solving, teamwork and collaboration, adaptability and resilience. Those are all things that you can learn through life, right? That can be brought into any environment that you end up going into. Mentorship programs that I recommend, again, Project Learning Trees Green Mentor, RPF mentorship has it built in, OUFC mentorship, reaching out to colleagues and other informal mentors. I find people are generally more open than we like to think they are. And if you reach out through LinkedIn, emails, go to networking events, go to free events like Women in Arboriculture Ontario, and Women in Wood events, then you can meet other people and some resource. I'm just got one more minute, maybe, James, if that's okay. The resources available there. And the last thing I really, really wanted to talk about was the answer to the unasked question will always be no. So ask people for help, reach out, Don't be afraid to apply to jobs. Explore career options that you maybe thought you weren't interested in. Seasonal jobs scared me for a really long time because I was afraid what would happen once that job was done. However, taking that leap and trying a seasonal job, you discover that there's other possibilities that come off of those. Success is what you decide it is. Merriam-Webster defines success as a favorable or desired outcome. Oxford Dictionary says it's the achievement of a desired result or outcome, the accomplishment of an aim or purpose, and Cambridge Dictionary calls it the achievement of the results wanted or hoped for. Your success is what you decide it is. Success is not making a lot of money. Success is not achieving CEO positions. Success is what you want it to be. So sit down with some pen and paper, look at what you enjoy and decide what your personal end goal is and work towards that. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex, for your homegrown Ontario perspective of how you've navigated your transitions through arboriculture and urban forestry. I love how you've weaved together conservation and good practice and professionalism with environmental education and leadership, which really aligns on a lot of things that we do here at PLT Canada. And several quotes that resonated with me. I think this reframing from soft skills to power skills is something that I'm taking away from this conversation. And success is absolutely what you decide it is, and your career path and your life is what you make it. So thank you so much for contributing today to all of our panelists. And before we close out with questions, I want to give some brief updates of what we're up to at PLT Canada, as some of this may resonate and be some great opportunities for the attendees on today's webinar. We're currently working our way through our Green Jobs program funded by the federal government, in which we place youth 15 to 30 into green jobs throughout the country, thanks to collaborations with over 440 employers. Our program kicks off in the spring, and we match diverse job seekers to diverse roles throughout the country. Since 2018, we've placed over 8,100 youth in green jobs, and this is looking closer to 8,500 as we close out our year. And as part of those youth that benefit from green jobs, 50% self-report as being women, and 15% are Indigenous, belonging to over 100 communities across the country. Alex spoke about the Green Mentor Program. We currently have a cohort underway, and we will be recruiting for a cohort next fall in 2026. So please join our website to find out how to become a mentee or contribute as a mentor. Since 2018, we've supported over 820 folks. Many people participating on the call have served as mentors or contributed as mentees, and maybe like myself and Alex working through that now. We've led 15 different cohorts and hope to grow more as our program grows throughout Canada and the United States. It is a virtual, free, binational program. And we also have a youth delegate program that provides conference experiences, so bringing youth from Canada and the United States, 18 to 30, to our annual conference. And we have some information on our website about that flagship program as well. If you do want to stay up to date on mentorship opportunities as a mentor or a mentee, please follow this QR code or likely a link in the chat to get part of our mailing list and really take advantage of what we have to offer in this program. And youth delegates, just to give you some perspective, in this last year, over 35 youth delegates participated in our annual conference, and that experience had a 100% success rate as folks really felt that it met or exceeded their expectations for this experience. And now I just want to follow up as you move on from this webinar and you incorporate maybe some of the advice or tips, and maybe looking to branch out in your career or secure new full-time or part-time experiences. For Ontario folks, we do have a job fair. It is a free virtual fair that will take place on November 20th from 1 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. Eastern, and you can access that opportunity through registering via the QR code on this presentation and links shared in the chat as well. So thank you for the PLT Canada team for putting that together. If you want to see us in person, we will be north of the border in Montreal from May 5th to May 7th in 2026 in my hometown of Montreal, Montreal, or Jojagi, and we really look forward to seeing you there. I know the clock is ticking and we don't have that much time. I do thank folks who have been interacting in the chat. I know James has been doing a bang-up job at moderating. Louise has been very generous with her comments as well. And thank you to everybody who has contributed. We may have time for about 1 or 2 burning questions. So if somebody would like to ask a question, I'm going to hand it over to James to moderate our Q&A and close us out. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for all of your presentations. There's a wonderful question in here from Bronwyn, but it looks like Louise has taken care of that already. And one from Jay. I'm currently a student at Algonquin. Can we get a recording of this session? Yes, you can. Any other questions coming in? And just let us know, and I can direct you to the correct person. You can also send us, any one of us here, an email if you have any further questions after the fact, and we would be happy to answer those as well. Great point from Alex W. there. You can also find all of us on LinkedIn if you so choose.
Yes, most definitely. And if the question comes up, if we do have people with ISA certified arborist credentials and related credentials that collect continuing education units or CEUs, we're not posting the the CEU code at the end of this presentation, but rather with your registration by sharing your certification number and fully attending the session, we will do that legwork for you and you will be awarded CEUs for your participation. So.
Okay, wonderful question coming in here, and I think we have some time to answer it. Any tips for the ISA exam? Julie, I think I'll let you take this one.
Sure. I think one of the biggest things is to read the ISA certification guide. There's also practice exams that are available online that are really, really good and directed to help you through the exam. So yeah, purchase the guide if you don't have it purchased, and yeah, read it. It's designed specifically to cover all the information that's on the exam to help you pass it.
And another question here that I would love to have answered. Any tips for international forestry PhD students at Canadian universities?
In terms of, I think you said you were at Lakehead earlier, so I have probably already spoken to you. But obviously the OPFA is here to help provide guidance on, depending on, we don't currently have any accredited PhD programs. So that is something you would likely have to go through the unaccredited pathway if you haven't been through the accredited pathway and you're interested in becoming a professional forester. But we can certainly provide you with some resources and guides as to how to do that and best prepare. And if you are still at Lakehead University, as they are an accredited, they do have an accredited program, there may be the opportunity for you to take some of the accredited courses, which doesn't automatically check anything off, but it will set you up well for when you go through the assessment in terms of, knowing that certain areas have been covered. So feel free to reach out to me if you have specific questions on that part.
We have another one here that I think we have one last question that we can answer from Kinjal. Roughly speaking, what are the ratios of Bachelor of Science versus BES graduates that ISA folks have seen in the field? And I'm assuming that's Bachelor of Environmental Science.
Yeah, I can answer. I've seen about probably a 50-50 split, to be honest. Like a bunch of my colleagues are Bachelors of Environmental Science or MES as well, Master of Environmental Science. So it's a mix. Yeah, I'd say about 50-50.
I concur
Awesome.
with Alex McLeod. I would agree it's about a 50-50 split.
Well, thank you so much. I think that is all the time we have. If you have any additional questions, you can reach us by email. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today.
And thank you, James, for being such a fantastic co-host on our cohort on our panel today. And again, a great big thank you to Louise, Julie, Alexander McLeod, Alex Vagan for contributing to a very lively discussion. It has been awesome, and thank you for the PLT Canada team for helping put together this session today. Have a good one.